Hey, it's Tim Seeley, and you are listening to the G.I. Joe Chronicles on the LONGBOX CRUSADE.
The LONGBOX CRUSADE presents
G.I. Joe Chronicles.
Don't they realize they're dealing with Destro?
When I choose Judge Bucket, they're gonna scrape you off the walls with a squeegee.
Now stop sputtering like a wet toaster and get busy!
Welcome to G.I. Joe Chronicles. I'm one of your commanders, Pat Sampson, codename DJ Kristatos. And joining me, as always, is my battle buddy in this operation, Jarrod Albrick, codename Death Pro.
Hey, Pat, how's it going?
Good, Jarrod. How are you doing?
Here.
Yeah.
Got a drink here from the O Club. I stopped by there, picked up a drink on the way over here.
Ah, what'd you get?
Oh, I got a little bit of Puerto Rican rum mixed in with my Pepsi Zero Sugar.
Ah.
That's what I've got going on. Are we recording? Oh, we're doing a show.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. At ease, DJ Kristatos, and all the green shirts tuning in for this podcast. I want to welcome you to Fort Longbox. We appreciate you tuning in to talk some G.I. Joe comics with us as we chronicle our way through G.I. Joe, America's Elite on this episode. Next episode, we'll return to the coverage of G.I. Joe Special Missions by Marvel. But for this episode, we are back in G.I. Joe, America's Elite that launched in 2005. On this episode of G.I. Joe Chronicles, DJ Kristatos and I are going to rotate in a special ops guest for the show. For this episode, our special ops guest is Crusaders Club member Micheal Minton, codename Razorpack. Welcome to Fort Longbox, Micheal.
Thank you, gentlemen. I am excited to be here and talk some Joe.
Good. That's exactly what we're going to do. So you're in the right place, the right time. We're glad you could be here. We originally had scheduled another Crusaders Club member on this one, but I was away at Heroes Con last week, and when I made the schedule, I forgot that I leave on Wednesdays. We record on Wednesdays, so I had to bump it back. So we will be hearing, I think I rescheduled. I think it was Bill, wasn't it, Pat? Wasn't it Bill from the Bat Pod, I think? Was going to do Bill Beer? I think it was Bill. And I got him scheduled. I think we're going to bring him back around Christmas time. Our bad, buddy, but we'll see you soon. Anyway, let's talk to old Razorpack here. Get the general debrief since this is your first time on the show. Obviously, what we want to know is what is your origin story? What was your way in? Most people, it's cartoons, toys, or comics, but we'll be interested to see what was your way in. And then please regale us with your three favorite characters, be they Joe or Cobra.
My G.I. Joe story starts sometime in the 70s. You know, I was born in the early 70s, and there was a couple that we went to church with, and they were not my grandparents, but they were like grandparents. You know, we all had those people that are almost like our grandparents. And I would always, first time I went over there, they had their oldest son's G.I. Joe. And so my introduction to G.I. Joe was G.I. Joe 12-inch.
12-inch?
Cool.
Joe. And so I would beg mom and daddy, can I go over to Mimi and Pops? I got to have some G.I. Joe. And then we started getting Star Wars toys. I had everything with the Star Wars, all the action figures, I even had the Death Star playset.
Ooh, fancy.
Oh, yeah. Then sometime in the early 80s, I remember seeing this G.I. Joe that was the same size as my Star Wars action figures. The only difference is they could bend their arms, they could bend their legs. So I was like, I'm done with the Star Wars toys. You know, I just wanted G.I. Joe. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I've never read the comics up until very recently. My love for G.I. Joe is strictly the toys that I had when I was a kid and the cartoons and the movies. I can honestly say my love for some of my favorite characters stems from that. What I love to play with, the ones that were interesting to me. Definitely not on a lot of people's bucket list, you know. And because of that, I can actually say I thoroughly enjoyed all the live action movies, all of them, you know. That's because good. I didn't have that history of the comics. Now, like I said before we started recording this, I started listening to Aaron Head's podcast, and I kept hearing y'all talk about how much y'all hated the Snake Eyes movie and the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra movie and whatnot. And I was like, I didn't quite understand that, but I was playing catch up. I really started reading the comics when I caught wind that this new company, Skybound Entertainment, was going to be doing this new universe called the Energon universe. And I was like, I kept hearing so much hype about that Void Rival series. So I bought it on my Apple iBooks and I started reading it. And I was like, whoa. When I saw Jetfire, I was like, whoa, I had that toy. And I kind of freaked out because I didn't realize it was Transformers connected to it. And then when I got to the end, they had that big announcement that they're doing a G.I. Joe Transformers and Void Rivals deal. And then I saw that they were releasing the G.I. Joe issue #1 with a brand new Duke series. And so I started buying those. And then I bought issue 300. I started looking at it. I was like, looking into it and realized that it was Larry Hama. And I didn't realize that Larry Hama wrote all the file cards on the back of my action figures, you know, that I love so much. And I was just kind of, in this last few months, I've been enamored with reading it. And so I just went through, and back in 2020, when I started recollecting the classified series, I started buying the trade paperbacks of the Marvels through Apple iBooks, but I never read them. And then I got that itch, and I was like, there's storylines, threads going back to issue #1. Let me pause this. I'm going to continue buying these, but I'm going to start reading the Marvel run. And so I've now read all the Marvel stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm going to pause on the Marvel, on Larry Hama's run. And I actually listened to all your podcasts, and I just now got caught up to your podcast on the comics. And I have been thoroughly enjoying this Devil's Due run. It's awesome.
That was a long answer. I'm just going to cut right to I've been listening to your podcast. Oh, good. He covered a lot of topics there.
Yeah,
the only alibi I've got is that I don't hate the movies.
Yes, I wanted to say that on too. I was not even,
might be a word I would use.
I was not even on those episodes, so I haven't even seen Snake Eyes, the movie. I have not seen that movie yet.
Well,
Good
like I
movie.
said, because I had no context until recently, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, oh my gosh, Snake Eyes is awesome.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way with all those Wolverine movies and stuff. Because I read some X-Men and some Wolverine just enough to be familiar, but I'm not steeped in it. So when all my friends were like, "Oh, X-Men 3 sucks," or X-Men Origins Wolverine sucks, I was like, "No, I like," So I know the feeling.
You know what? I can tell you, I understand now reading the Marvel run. Oh, the original origin story is so much better. So much better. I love those connections. And I didn't get that with my Stalker action figure, my Snake Eyes action figure, my Storm Shadow action figure. I didn't get all of that because I never read those, as a kid, so.
All right. Well, speaking of figures, we still have not. He's showing us his Arashikage tattoo.
I want to get one, but
he's all the way in.
Yeah.
But speaking of figure, we got it. We have to wrap up the basic question. Who are your 3 favorites, man?
This is purely based on what I absolutely loved about the action figures. Not necessarily the cartoon, but the action figures themselves. Okay. So I'm going to go with number 3. Boom. Barbecue.
Nice
I
one.
love me some barbecue. Who doesn't like this? I mean, he just looks amazing. His outfit, he just looked amazing. My other favorite one was Tripwire.
Nice.
Gotta love the Tripwire. I mean, I don't know why I liked him. I just liked his look. I loved how he just looked a little bit different. And then last but not least, I actually have a tie for first place because I could not come up with a first in second place. And for all those people who are listening, I'm actually showing my classified figures. Duke is the man along with Gung Ho.
All right. He's got a Duke and Gung Ho. He can't decide which one is his tops. So.
I can't. You know, I love Gung Ho because he's a Southern boy. You know, and I was born in Arkansas, but I did live some time when I was a kid in South Louisiana for a little bit. You know, so man, got that Cajun. You know, so I just love it. I can't. And I will say this was hard for me coming up with the top three. That's tough.
Well,
you know?
Start thinking about vehicles because we got another episode coming up with you.
You know what? I told my wife, man, it was easier to come up with the top three vehicles than it was the action figures.
But then, yeah, it's just an interesting story to hear somebody, you know, just come into it from the cartoon and the toys. I mean, we've heard a few people that we've had on there just come in recently. You know, they were new to Joe as well too from everything because they were a younger generation. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to hear what your take is going to be on these issues and going back now and man, just being able to read the Marvel run, at least the first half of it from 1 to 155 without any waiting period. You know, that way, you know, you got that of, I was able to read it all the way through and where, you know, us in the trenches, we were like, oh, when's that next issue coming out that month and just waiting for all that anticipation. So cool. Always cool to hear different takes.
It is cool. It is cool. But you know what? I'm cutting off your conversations because someone has to edit this. So we're going to start rolling into the intelligence report. Pat, what do you got, man?
Well, Jarrod, I'm glad you asked. For this mission, we will be covering G.I. Joe America's Elite number 5. The publisher was Devil's Due. Cover date was November 2005. The writing goes to Joe Casey for the first part and Josh Blaylock for the second part. Pencils go to Nelson Blake the second and Stanley Lau for the second story in this issue. That's right, this is a big one. There's 2 stories in this one. Inker is John Lowe. Colorist is Kendrick Lim. Letterer is Steve Seeley. Cover art goes to Stefano Caselli and Dave McCaig. And speaking about the cover, Death Probe, please take us through the cover description.
Can do, Pat.
Take cover!
Issue 5's cover has Zartan in the foreground of a swamp with his bow drawn, keenly aware that he's being hunted. In the background, we see another figure with another bow drawn. It is the hunter. It is Storm Shadow.
All right, let's go ahead and find out what we all thought about this hunting cover. And we'll start with our guest, Razorpack. Go ahead and tell us what you thought of the cover.
Well, I tell you, I absolutely love this cover. 2 reasons: Zartan and Storm Shadow. Can you get any better? I mean, you're kind of wondering who's hunting who. You know, I never saw the whole entire movie. I only saw bits and pieces of it as I was growing up. My dad would watch it every time, but this actually gives me a Deliverance vibe. You know, it actually gives me this Deliverance vibe. I just love it. And I love that the fact that this issue, this part of the story of this issue is harkering back to a thread that Larry Hama wrote in the 80s. I just love that. I think it's cool. I love the swamp. I love the art. So that's my thoughts. Zartan, baby.
These issues are definitely calling back lots of things, not only from the comics, but also from, you know, cartoon lore. When Josh put this universe together, I think he did it with a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of love for that. And this cover definitely, man, there's a lot of line work in this one, Jarrod, I would think, you know, just looking at, you know, Zartan's a little older looking, so you got a little more extra lines in his face, and you got some more extra lines in his armor and body suit that he's kind of wearing. But I like it. I like that the color is up front with him and then kind of in the fogginess of the woods or the swampiness of the woods. You kind of just see Storm Shadow just kind of blending in as best as he can and ready to release an arrow as needed if he does. Jarrod, what's your thoughts on the cover?
Pretty much echo everybody else. My favorite thing was the color fade in the distance, which you already covered, even though I'm supposed to go before you in the script. And I also like the shaft of light that comes down through the trees. That's pretty neat. You'll notice when we talked about the creators on this issue that Stefano Caselli, our regular penciler, is not on this one. So this is the only Stefano Caselli art we're going to get, and at least he made it count. And I definitely like the harkening back to the 80s Marvel run, because there's some real history between these two.
Definitely. And just like Storm Shadow, I jumped ahead because I'm going to ambush you later on.
I feel ambushed in the swamp.
You should. I wanted you to get that feeling. That
I got it. I was like, oh, I got an arrow in me.
All right. Well, now that we have our thoughts on the cover out of the way, let's go ahead and find out how we would rate it. Here we do a cover rating scale of a 1 to 10 flag points. 1 meaning you didn't like it at all, and 10 meaning it's perfect and you should make a recruiting poster out of it. Maybe a hunting recruiter for hunting school. Get your bow class done so you can go hunting. You might get that deer or you might get something else. So, Michael, where do you lie on a scale of 1 to 10 on this cover?
2 of my favorite characters and 2 of my favorite toys that I do have, they are in my top. They just didn't make the top 3. Zartan and Storm Shadow. Need I say more? 10 flag points.
Yo, Joe!
All right. He's setting the bar high on this one with 10 flag points. Jarrod, since I'm following the script now, you come first or you come after. So let's go ahead and see where you are. The reason why I just didn't want to give my score away yet.
Oh, okay. So it's to your advantage once again.
Maybe not.
You're one cool guy, Pat.
I am one cool guy. You could be 2 if you.
I like this cover a lot. I think it's really cool, and I like the history it kind of tells in one still image. And I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, Pat. And I just want to remind everybody that no matter what G.I. Joe figures you have, they all could be Zartan.
Ooh, that is interesting take on that.
Uh-huh.
That is so true.
That is true. Like the more you think about it, you're right. They all could be Zartan. Well, Jarrod, you made the right decision because you are now 2 cool guys. Ooh, at a 9. At a 9. 2 cool guys.
Whoever's on Pat's team is a cool guy.
Yeah. Although Michael's, he got this at a 10.
He's got a 10. You can't fault him on that.
No, definitely not. It is definitely a good place to be on this cover. With the cover out of the way, let's go back to Death Probe for the story synopsis in our mission brief.
Look in the eyes of a hero and see the sacrifice within. There's no way out for the hero. He only lives to fight again. A hero stands tall, not for fortune or fame, protect freedom because we all just want it the same. Real heroes don't get.
This is a double-sized issue with 2 stories in it, and I think that's going to be a trend at least for the next couple issues. I remember them doing a few of these double-sized for a while. Just as a side note, it's kind of cool because the price did go up, but it was like $4.50. So it's like, I think it was like $1.50 more for double the story. It was not a bad deal. It was a pretty good deal if you ask me, especially with the quality of stories. But you know what? We'll get to that. Let me just get back to what I'm supposed to say. Let's get into the first story. Damage Report. The Joe team is trying to savor their recent victory, and they finally discover who was behind the crashed satellites in Chicago and Silicon Valley. And some of the older Joes are surprised to find out that Vance Wingfield was the culprit. And I think he's dead now. I'm not, was he? I think he was dead.
I think so.
All right.
Yeah,
and they do confirm his link to Mars Tech and Destro. So now the hunt for Destro begins. But General Colton is still trying to bring some cohesion to the latest Joe squad. Flint is still on the raggedy edge after the death of Lady J. Storm is still a wild card. The Baroness is still in secret custody. Duke is still missing, although we are given a glimpse of him helping out some Brazilian freedom fighters. Hawk is being less than helpful, and Snake Eyes finally returns. And that's a good thing since we discover that he and Scarlet have secret microchips implanted in each other so they can always track one another. And that is a good thing because now we know where Scarlet is. being held captive on Destro's submarine headquarters. Let's get into the second story. It's called The Past Comes Back, Part 1. Zartan and the Dreadnoks have been hiding out in Canada, but now Zartan and his family are headed back to the Everglades in search of something near and dear to Zartan. Stalker and Storm Shadow are sent to intercept, but they're caught in a trap sprung by Xandar. After a brief look into Zartan's past, the Zartan family arrives home, and Xandar is excited to show his brother the Joes he's caught, but when he opens the trap, they're gone.
Now, back to G.I. Joe.
Okay, now it's time for highs and lows of the issue. We will start with Michael. In round 1, would you like to lead us with a high or a low or perhaps a what the?
I'm going to start out with the what the. The what the is the revelation that Scarlet is on the sub.
Yeah.
Destro. When I got to that, I was like, whoa, the storyline has been so well written that I totally forgot just a few days ago what I read just a few days ago. And I was like, where's Scarlet? What was the last issue that she was actually in? And I had to go back. Oh, she was in issue number 1. That was the last time we saw her. And,
oh, wow.
Right?
I didn't remember that either. I was like, where has she been?
Yeah, she got like in a fight with somebody, and that was it, right?
Yeah, she was fighting. She was going after Cesspool, and then there's some robot kids. Yeah,
that's right.
Right. And so I was like, what is this? So, and man, she looked pissed after they left. So that was my what the moment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you picked a good one, because that is, I definitely want to weigh in, and Pat does too. Like, I was just like you. I was like, oh, and I read these back in the day. Of course, that was 20 years ago. But I was like, oh, okay. And then what the? He's got Scarlet. And it's nice mirroring that he's got Scarlet and the Joes have Baroness. Like, it's just
right.
So nicely set up. Pat, you want to riff on that, or do you want to open up a new can in round 1? Or both? We all know you're going to do both.
Yeah, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. So I'm going to kind of go off of that. What I liked about this issue, just overall, is that it's kind of a place setting again, right? We get the kind of downfall of Winfield, which was kind of anticlimactic for me. I was like, oh.
Unceremonious. Yes, yeah. I agree.
I was like, oh, I was kind of let down by that.
We'll let Joe Casey know when we're back on that.
Yeah. But I understand kind of why, because the best thing about this was just the character developments that were going on in this one. You see a little bit more of everybody. There's maybe a little bit of action, but not a lot. It's more place setting that's going on, and I really like that. And there is a lot of place settings that are going on in this one. And you kind of went over it in the story recap with all the different characters and what's happening.
Yeah, it's definitely a reset. We've wound up Wingfield, just like you said. Anticlimactic, I weighed in on that too. It was like, oh yeah, Wingfield. And they were like, oh yeah.
Yeah, Wingfield.
Moving on. And I was like, is he dead? I think he's dead.
Well, they kind of call it out, and then like, oh yeah, he's dead, or he's not moving, or whatever. They call it out in it, and then of course, then it goes like maybe a day or two later, or whatever, and you have Joe, leading, and he goes, oh yeah, it was Wingfield, and yada yada yada. And
word.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, okay. But I liked it. I liked the character developments here going on, and just where the next steps and storylines are going to go to.
I, for my first round, am going to do a couple of art shout outs. I thought Nelson Blake II did a fantastic job picking up from Caselli. And it's kind of clear to me why Caselli's just on cover, because they're doing these double length issues. So there's a lot more going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certain as we pick up in the second round, we're going to talk about the second story and all that stuff. So I'll kind of save that chapter. Although the art there is really cool as well. It's very different style. But I think Nelson Blake II did a really bang up job filling in, I almost got a maybe modernized Herb Trimpe vibe off of him, if that makes any sense. And I really liked it. And I just thought that was super cool. And the only other thing I want to point out about art that I thought was neat is at the end of last issue 4, I think it was, something like that. What are we on now? 5? Yeah. Oh, this is on the very back cover. They teased the cover for issue 5 that we're on now, but they inverted it. And I've started noticing too, they tease on some of these, they'll tease the upcoming cover, but then they'll tweak the art in some way. So it's not exactly the same as where we saw it, which I thought was just a fun little note just a little inside note for those of you who are really into this, and you're really into this Devils Do Run, just something, a little Easter egg that you can have some fun with. But I wanted to point that out and just definitely give Nelson Blake his second, a bit of, give him his flowers, if you will, because he did a bang-up job picking this up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The artwork, I wasn't shocked or just like, outplaced with it. When I looked at it, I'm like, it's just another issue of Joe that I've been reading. So
yeah, it didn't throw me off, but I did notice it was a different guy, but I liked the guy. So it all came together well. And we will take it back to our boy Razorpack in the second round. Do you intend to go to the second story, or do you have more to say on the first one, my friend?
I guess I can final thought on the first story, because I have a low for the second story. I'm going to go with a low in the second story. But man, Flint. Let's talk about Flint really quick. I've grown to respect Flint by reading the comic series, and Lady J has always been one of my favorites. And even though I was binge listening to your show, I was behind, and even I knew that moment was coming, I was still shocked that they killed her. And so to see him go through this arc, I'm like, dude, you are not handling this the right way. With what I do in my line of work, I'm sitting there thinking, man, how can I talk to this guy? Especially when he's sitting there at the graveside, and how can I talk to this guy? How can I encourage him to go to grief counseling, to deal with it properly? Because I felt like that was a very powerful moment when he reaches for the bottle, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to become a drunk. And then he pours the alcohol out. And I was like, okay, he just found his resolve, because he's going to focus on the enemy to get him through this. And I don't know if that's going to be a good thing. Is he going to turn into like a Punisher type character? I don't know. But I'm like, dude, how can I pray for you, dude?
I definitely felt the same way too. I'm like, is he pouring it out like hey, let's pour one out for Lady J, and or is he just dumping it? But then the conversation he was having, it's like, I held my shot. I should have took it, like you've always told me to take the shot. So what is he going to do? And just the cool part I liked, and I'll go into my part. I liked Joe Colton, and I like his leadership. I like that he is trying to learn a little bit more about all the other Joes, and also cares about them enough to do that he's going to give everybody a little bit of leeway, but he's also kind of keeping in line too, like, hey, I can give you a little slack, but you also need to give me a little something too, so then I can help protect you. Is just concern about Flint and bringing in Stalker to kind of ask him, hey, are you seeing the same thing? What do you think's going on? What can we do to kind of help him? Because he doesn't want to see a good soldier like that go, but he wants to see him get some help. And I like how Stalker kind of had to handle it too. Like, hey, I'd be the same way, that, if my family was having some issues or that. And we see a little bit of that story too. Again, it's the character development that's continuing to go on here.
Well, I agree with you, but I'm going to shift gears and be the first one to talk about the second story, which I freaking loved. I'm scared to find out what Razorpack's low for it is, but that's all right. We're almost done with highs and lows, so he doesn't get to say anything. I'm just kidding. We'll bring it. We'll bring everybody. This is a double size issue, so we'll let everybody drop a thought on this as well. I thought it was fantastic. First of all, completely different art style, much more of a painted style from Stanley Lau. It works, especially like his technique he uses when you're looking through a video camera, with the old school lines on it. Like, that was kind of cool. But most of all, I just really want to glow up this story because I thought it was so cool that we got to see Stalker and Storm Shadow team up. These are old buddies from, in old continent.
Yeah.
These guys are war buddies from Vietnam. They know each other. They respect each other. They're both really good at what they do. And it was just really cool to see them get to kind of team up for a small mission. This definitely feels like a special mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you add in Dreadnoks, which is always fun. There's a history there with Storm Shadow. It just really felt like Josh kind of had this fun little jaunt that he wanted to do with these characters that don't get paired up a lot. And I read it just very, very giddy. I love the very last panel where the guys are gone. I mentioned that in the storyline. I thought, this is just this is an 80s. This feels like Larry wrote it. I've already talked enough about it. So we could go one more round and get Michael's thoughts on it, and then we'll go with you, Pat, and then we'll wrap it up.
My low is, as a dad, it goes out to Stalker. With that one little panel where he's talking to his son on the phone. To me, that was a low moment. Alvin goes, "You're not coming home, are you?" And he goes, "No, I can't. Duty calls," and he says, "I love you, son." And then you see in that bottom corner, he goes, "Yeah, whatever," click. You didn't hear him say whatever, but we all know he actually said whatever after the phone clicked, but so that I put that in there, but it's like, dude, his heart had to break, when as dads, something always happens that's out of our control. And when we disappoint our kids or our wives, or something, and it was like out of our control, and it's just like, it breaks your heart, and my heart just went out to him.
I kept hearing Cats in the Cradle playing in the background on that one.
I kind of want to give that a low too, just from a different perspective, being that I've been the military son and I've been the military dad. I get what Blaylock's doing. He's adding some drama, the family drama, right? But I'll be honest with you, 99% of the kids I grew up with in the military communities, this is the life. There's no, "Oh, I'm so disappointed Dad doesn't love me." No. And you take every chance you get to say "I love you" to your dad, because you never know when the last one is. So it didn't really ring true from a military kid or a military dad point of view. But I get what Blaylock's doing by building some family drama. So I'm not too salty about it. That's your veteran take from Jarrod, ladies and gentlemen.
I will say, I love to hear through all the podcasts, even on Aaron's podcast, your military take. I really enjoy that aspect of it. And
half the time I'm making stuff up, but I appreciate that.
On the military or just everything else?
Kind of everything, Pat. It's all 50. No, seriously, though, I appreciate that, Michael. I really do. That means a lot. It really does. Pat, say something nice about me.
You're fancy.
There we go. And while you've got the mic, what do you think of that backup story?
This was a very good backup story. I wasn't expecting a lot out of it. I didn't know there was a backup story until I opened it up and I thought, "Ooh, he is hitting all the right spots in the history of this one." As Michael mentioned, I was like, "Oh, there's a lot of kind of callback to different things." I think what helped out was the artwork in this one. Like you said, that kind of watery, colory feel to it, a little like a flashback kind of a feel. And I enjoyed it because there was a lot of callbacks. You had, Storm Shadow called back to the Hardmaster, and then just everything that went with him and Zartan. As you mentioned, Stalker and him, once they got into that mindset of, here, we're just on another mission, took me back to just picturing them back in those days when they were together. I guess Vietnam at the time,
they said something like, "It's just another jungle," right?
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, and then just them calling out each other what to do, and it's like, oh man, I could watch more of that.
Definitely,
I could definitely want to see more of what's happening, and a very interesting story in that the compound that they're going to, and the Dreadnoks too, is I'm interested to see where Josh is going with this.
It's a fantastic cliffhanger because we still don't know what has brought Zartan back. What is he looking for? Because we've looked over this place top to bottom. We don't know what he's looking for. And Stalker's dying slowly of poisoning. And him and Storm Shadow are just now gone. It's like, what a great cliffhanger. Like, I definitely want to know more.
Yeah, because they got like knocked out. It's like, how did they get unknocked out? Or maybe at least Storm Shadow probably
Storm
did.
Shadow was, I think he was still conscious, wasn't he? He just kind of fell down in that silo. And I just love how happy Xandar was. Oh, I got that. Let me show you what I got. And he's like, oh man, you left the ninja alone, didn't you?
Right. Can we talk about Xandar here? I mean, he actually could hold his own. I was impressed.
Yeah, he did well. He had the element of surprise. Yeah, he did good.
He's like the guy that you always forget. I did love that bit that he had, in the 80s. I love that bit. Oh, nobody remembers me. Nobody sees me or whatever. And he actually did a great job. It's like, wow.
Yeah, definitely. Just seeing him interact with the other Dreadnoks and Zartan's family. I like this one because it was like hey, I'm getting the family back together. We got to go do something on Zartan's side. And you see some of the older Dreadnoughts just kind of hanging out doing what the Dreadnoughts do. And it's like, oh man, that's cool callbacks to all that. And yeah.
3 pages of Zartan's history as a child. Like, we rarely get to see anything about Zartan's past.
Yeah, that was.
Some people weren't even sure he was human, Mm-hmm. So, like, Josh definitely got to play in that sandbox a little bit, which was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else, guys? It's time to wrap up the discussion. Anything just weighing on your mind that you got to get out? Pat?
I'm going to go back to the first story.
I knew it.
Just because we need to cover it. The Duke stuff yet. I'm still intrigued of what is he doing?
I was running around with freedom fighters of some kind, I guess.
This series is making Duke just feel like he's
like Daniel Craig and all those bombs.
Yeah.
He's going rogue.
Yeah.
He's just rogue all the time.
It's like it's putting another spin on him, what I like, because and then he keeps it like Black Opsy, and even they mention it like, we don't even know what he's doing. He doesn't say anything to anybody of when we weren't together. What was he doing? We just know he was doing some, high level stuff and out on his own. I like that. I like the building of that character.
Yeah, we've said it so many times on this podcast since we started Devils Do Run. The greatest thing they've ever done is make Duke interesting. And I know Michael's loving it because he's a top tier character for him.
Hey, but you know what? Here's my question about this part of the story is, what is he doing that even General Colton doesn't have the clearance to know what's going on? Right? It goes above Joel Colton's pay grade. I'm like, wow. To me, that's amazing. So I'm really intrigued by what they're doing with Duke for sure.
I would definitely take a Duke figure the way he looks in this one. Oh man, all like camo it up and all that. I like that.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this issue is pretty good. We're going to get to scoring it in just a second. But man, it's got all these cliffhangers, be it in the first story or the second story. And I think we're all excited to get there. But we do have to score it, which means I got to hand it back to DJ Kristatos for the IG's report on combat readiness of this issue.
And another thing about this issue, let me tell you, I'm just kidding. And for those of you who don't speak military, that means we're going to score this issue's story on the same 1 to 10 flag points scale we used earlier. Michael, on 1 to 10 flag points, how many are you going to give for this issue?
I know this is my first time on the show, but because it's a double-sized issue and there was so much going on, so much intrigue, I have to give it a 10.
Yo, Joe!
It's hitting on all cylinders. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? I just love it. I can't wait to read the next issue.
Jarrod, are you with Michael on a 10?
Michael and I are going to be two cool guys. Because I also have it at a 10.
Yo, Joe!
Yeah, this...
Two cool guys.
I was already liking the continuation of the storyline with Destro and his submarine. It's still great. And then that backup story just came and it was like an alley-oop. Just tossed it up, dunked it. It was great. Yeah, put me down for a 10.
All right, I'll put you down for a 10. Michael's down for a 10. And you know what? It's time for Three's Company because I'm at a 10 too. Woo!
3 cool guys.
Cool guys.
Awesome.
Woo! All right. This one, I was really surprised by the double size. And all right, well, now that we've got the flag points out of the way, let's go ahead and turn our attention to the award for this episode, and we will be able to give out a Silver Star medal or Silver Snake, either for gallantry in action or sneaky snaky-tude. And this is where we each get to award the character in this issue who went above and beyond the call of duty. So, Michael, who do you think went above and beyond or below and sneaky?
I love this. Actually, when I was putting this together, I didn't know how we're going to do this. And so I have a list of 2 Silver Stars, 2 Silver Snakes, but I'm just going to go with the one that is combined, because you have 2 different stories. Right? You
do.
You got 2 different stories. And I'm going to go with the Silver Snake for the first story for sure. And that is Destro. That one panel, we really didn't talk about it, but the quote that he said, and this is why I'm giving him the Silver Snake. You had a Sanford and Son moment. A Destro and Son moment here where they're having this conversation. And he goes, "Listen, boy, you don't know what you're talking. There's more for you to learn. Come on." And he gives him this little speech. The G.I. Joe team will no doubt relentlessly pursue us, hoping to land that one divisive blow that will end this war in their eyes. We each move our chess pieces. I love that it's referencing issue 21 with
exactly
with the chess pieces. And he says, across the board, across the world, each of us thinking several moves ahead to beat the other to that one move that every man savors. Then we go to the next panel. We get the reveal that he has Scarlet, and he says, "Checkmate." Dude, he earns the Silver Snake.
Yeah.
Destro, baby.
Definitely. I thought that was a cool moment and a cool callback to issue 21 with the chess piece. That's the first thing I remember in that cover. Jarrod, what's your thoughts?
Well, I was definitely leaning towards Destro, but I have a backup plan for the backup story. And we talked about it a little bit before. Xandar showed out, man, and acquitted himself well against 2 guys who are not to be trifled with, which is Stalker and Storm Shadow. He managed to capture him. Now, was he able to hold on to him? No. But the fact that he was able to defeat the both of them by himself, that was pretty baller. So hats off to you, Xandar, the guy that no one remembers. Silver Snake for Xandar. What about you, Pat?
Boy, you both took 2 really good ones. So, I'm going to go with what I mentioned before, and I'm going to give a Silver Star to Joe Colton, just for being the upright guy that he is. He's got a team that he needs to handle, but he also needs to make sure that, one, they're all right mentally, and then that they're all right with physical stuff that they do as well, too. So I'm going to give it to him for just kind of getting the team and making sure they're okay.
It's a good choice.
And with our Silver Snake and Silver Star medals out of the way, I will now hand it back over to Jarrod for his segment, Death Probe's Toy Chest.
It's here, the G.I. Joe collection, each sold separately. G.I. Joe from Hasbro.
All right, Pat, in this segment, I'll take something or someone featured from this issue and give you a brief toy history on it. For this issue, I have selected the Devilfish.
This is it, the new G.I. Joe Devilfish on a high-speed recon mission.
There's Hawk, the new Joe Commander. That's Beachhead, the Ranger. And that's Witsis.
Devilfish has 2 torpedoes and twin guns on top, and they're gonna need it, because here comes Cobra.
Cobra's got a new hydro set, and that's real dangerous with G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe.
Live the adventure of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe Devilfish, Cobra Hydro Sled, and Cobra and Joe figures each sold separately.
Joe!
We don't do a lot of vehicles, but I was so excited when I saw the Devilfish show up in the backup story. I said, you know what? Devilfish. For those of you who don't remember, the Devilfish was a small, agile, twin-engine combat boat. No driver came with it. It came with 4 missiles, 2 torpedoes, and a twin-mounted gun. It features prominently on the cover of G.I. Joe number 47 from back in the 80s. It was first released in 1986 and discontinued in 1988. You'd probably recognize it because it has like a bright orange body with a gray bottom. There are currently 2 versions of the Devilfish, the original 86 and then 1989. They tiger striped it for Tiger Force. Wow. So there is that. Let's do around the room on who had the Devilfish. I knew I had the Devilfish, and I love the Devilfish. Pat, did you have Batter Dip Devilfish?
Well, Jarrod, we are 2 cool guys because I had the Devilfish and I loved it as well. And I really like the little symbol of the Devilfish on the front of it.
Yeah, the symbol's cool.
That's cool, man. This was a really cool, sweet-looking vehicle.
Yeah, it came out at the same time as the Cobra Hydrofoil, which was a really cool vehicle. So it was kind of fun to battle the two, one big and one little. Anyway, we got to get...
You were fancy enough to, yeah.
Oh, clearly. Razorpack, did you ever have the Devilfish with tartar sauce?
Oh, man, I hate to admit this, but I did not have this one. I had a lot of the vehicles, but I did not score this one. I wish I would have, because
that's surprising, because it was like a more affordable price point with a smaller set, but just got by you, huh?
Probably because my mom and dad kept buying me the bigger ones.
Oh, he's fancy, Pat.
Oh, it's fancy. Yeah.
I wonder if his fanciness will rival mine in G.I. Joe. I also had some pretty big, cool stuff. But man, that Devilfish. I really like that. I had to give a shout out to the cover of 47. I love that cover with the Devilfish. You know what I'm talking about, Pat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's got what? General Hawk, wetsuit, Beachhead, I think.
Yeah, that was a cool cover for sure.
Yeah.
It's a cool vehicle. I mean, and when playing with this vehicle, you could make it a little spaceship too if you're kind of mixing your Star Wars and your Joes together and just playing around.
That's not allowed.
It is too. Nah, that's how I play.
Well, just keep playing. It's your turn on the script anyway.
All right. Well, up next, we will get to our feedback segment called Combat Comms.
Call it G.I. Joe. Go get Breaker. He can do it.
As always, we want to start out Combat Comms with a roster of our battle-hardened Crusader Club veterans. These are the fine folks that have joined our Crusaders Club. They enjoy early access to special Longbox video episodes, free raffle giveaways, voting on show programming, and so much more. So these are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Alan W. Wright.
And Helica Wolf.
Alberin Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Bradley Dello.
Braxton Underwood.
Clinton Robinson.
Captain Entropy.
Clark Westfield.
Dave Collins.
Battle Wagon.
Eric Hodges.
Eric Porter.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary V.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Heinz K.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeff Polier.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarmerman.
Jim Meal.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Kathy Bright.
Matt and Lizzie Passo.
Mark Ross.
Maxwell Trevor.
Micheal Minton. Sounds made up.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And the Toronto Cop. If we missed anyone on our list, we do apologize. Please keep in mind that we record these episodes well in advance of release. So if you are a recent addition, we should be adding you soon. Still, don't worry about it. Just let us know that we missed you by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com and we will get it all straightened out. So you might be asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? Well, it's very simple. Just head on over to patreon.com and search for Longbox Crusade. For as little as $1 a month, you can get access to the amazing world of Crusaders Club. Come and check it out. Now let's see what messages we have from our loyal platoon of listeners as we look in to see what's in Breaker's ComSat.
Communications Officer. Codename Breaker.
These are comments from episodes 50 and 51, where we covered America's Elite number 3 and Special Missions number 3. with our guest, Jason the Weasel Skull.
All right. Michael, if you want to take that first one from G.I. Gary, we'll get rolling.
All right. G.I. Gary said, if Orsted grows his mushrooms in those sewers, maybe then the G.I. Joes could meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They did not meet during either the IDW infestations. Great show.
Now we know, we were wondering if there was ever a G.I. Joe Turtle crossover. and carrying that along, we heard from Matt Passo. He says, I don't believe TMNT and G.I. Joe have crossed over, which I think is a crime. The infestation crossover looked more like a company-wide event that was in each story in its own way and not necessarily mixing the universes. Wah, wah.
I'll take the next one from Brandon Helmig. And he says, I always loved the cover art of all the America Elite issues, and they have been really good.
Kyle Vick responded to Brandon's comment, agreed. The tone and style was grittier and more of what I wanted from Joe.
Nice, nice. And our boy Christian Romero's back, Pat, doing what he does. He posted the cover of the issue that we covered and simply said, got it.
We'll take the next one from R.M. Thompson. And they say, maybe Snake Eyes is the villain. Well, in the eye of the Freds who survived him, they now have support group.
Scotty Cameron. He actually posted a couple of pictures of himself, it looks like, and or someone. You know,
I don't think that's Scotty.
I don't think that's him, but very intriguing pictures. But he said, I love this issue, particularly how it positions Firefly as Snake Eyes' new nemesis, now that Storm Shadow is a Joe. Also, the Jeff in question is Andrea Rush, as served as White House and Pentagon Jeff since 1997 until 2023. Then he began hosting Kitchen Commando. I get it now.
Now the pictures make sense. Yeah, we were talking about how Roadblock is a chef.
Yep.
And we thought, I was mentioning there's this real life guy who I knew was a chef at the White House that looks just like him.
Yeah. Boy.
And Scotty came through.
Yeah, I always enjoy Scotty's comments.
Yeah, we really appreciate all the ads on that, Scotty. And I believe this one wraps up with G.I. Gary, who said, love these revisits. Makes me reread them again. Special Missions is truly a special series that deserved a longer run. So his comment was more focused on our Special Missions, and I couldn't agree more, man. Special Missions is a fine publication. So fine that I had it 2 volumes hardbound by Omaha Bound because I'm fancy.
Yes, you are.
And that will bring us to mission complete status for this episode of G.I. Joe Chronicles. If you'd like to hear more from us in the realm of comic books, action figures, vintage TV, movie serials, and so much more, Sherlock Holmes, check out the entire Longbox Crusade Network. DJ Kristatos, where can they find that?
Well, Jarrod, I am glad you asked. You can find that pretty much on all podcatchers out there, or go to www.longboxcrusade.com. We are also on X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search at Longbox Crusade. Back to you, Jarrod.
If you'd like to chat with us personally online, we can be found at... Back to you, Pat.
Ooh, you ambushed me just like I did you in the beginning. Well, Jarrod, I'm glad you asked. You can find me at Kristatos01. Jarrod, back to you.
All right. I can be found at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Michael, thank you so much for being here. Where can folks find you?
They can catch me on the Twitter or Facebook. I don't do a lot. I'm so busy with everything that I do that I just kind of look there. But I'm on Facebook. You can message me, Micheal Minton. There you go.
He's got a really unique spelling of Michael, Micheal.
That is correct.
Gotcha. All right, that's how to find him. And, of course, you can always pull a battle wagon and just send anything you have for Michael to us here at the studios, and we'll make sure he gets it. I want to thank everyone for joining this episode of G.I. Joe Chronicles. We will see you on the battlefield next episode, where we will cover G.I. Joe Special Missions from Marvel, number 5, Showdown. Until then, platoon, fall out.
Yo, Joe.
The music themes for this show are done by musical genius Joe November. Please check out his SoundCloud at Josephline99. That's Josephline 99. You will not regret it. Zartan? I don't know who Zartan is, but he sounds awesome.